What's going on, everyone? What an exciting offseason for the Dodgers. They land Shohei Ohtani, this generation's Babe Ruth, one of the greatest players of a generation, going to one of the more recognizable franchises, really all of sports. You think of like the Dodgers, the Lakers, the Knicks, right? The Yankees. And to have such a polarizing figure going to such a polarizing organization, there's just a lot of buzz and excitement around Los Angeles as well as baseball, period. And you get into the season, there's all this hype and excitement. The first game, they're in Seoul, South Korea. Games at 3 a.m, right? But people are still waking up, staying up to go watch the game. I did so myself. And you end up getting a comeback win, and it was huge. And then fast forward a couple hours, and all of a sudden, everything changed. Because there is now news out there that Shohei Ohtani is now in a sort of gambling scandal in which there's very likely going to be an investigation sparked. And now there's a lot of questions. And I kind of wanted to go over kind of the information that we have currently, kind of explain some stuff, because I see a lot of just like people just throwing stuff out there that's just not even close to being true. And it's just causing a lot of confusion. And so let's dive into this and talk about this a little bit. So the Los Angeles Dodgers interpreter for Shohei Ohtani was fired Wednesday afternoon after questions surrounding at least $4.5 million in wire transfers sent from Ohtani's bank account to a booking operation set off a series of events. So Ipe Mazura is the interpreter, right? And a lot of people are saying, how did Ohtani end up having all this money sent without his involvement, without him being aware? He had to have been involved in the gambling. He had to have known about the gambling, right? He must be making the bets himself, and Missouri, he's the one that's just the fall guy. None of that is true. I don't know where people are pulling this out from. And I've seen a lot of it. There's no way Shohei had no idea. I've seen even credible people that are like, oh, how did he get access to Shohei's money? Again, the information is there. Take a minute and look it up and see what is actually reported and what was actually said. So, yes, there was a $4.5 million gambling debt. It appears that Shohei's interpreter has a very bad gambling problem. Now, it wasn't baseball. Not that it really matters for Shohei, but it is something, that looks more favorable. So he wasn't betting on baseball, his interpreter. Again, Shohei had no involvement. And a lot of people are throwing out, there's no way he had no involvement. There is when you actually look into the story. So Shohei was minding his own business, living his best life, right? It was his interpreter who racked up a gambling debt with a sports betting agency, which is the one that keeps being mentioned. And then what happened was he ended up generating a $4.5 million gambling debt. Shohei, being that this interpreter is his friend and has been his friend for years now. He literally has a clause in his Dodger contract that if they fire the interpreter, he can void the contract and be out of his contract. This is his buddy. And his buddy ended up getting into a bind and getting into a situation. And Shohei sent the wire to cover the gambling debt. Shohei wasn't making debts. It wasn't involved. The guy didn't go and take the money. Now, there is reports going around that from the attorney standpoint saying that there was money stolen. Yes, there seems to be, at least, again, allegedly, we don't know this for certain yet, but there appears to be, according to the attorney and on the other side of things, other money that is missing that Shohei wasn't aware of. People are getting those two mixed up. They're equating the $4.5 million and going, how did he steal $4.5 million and rack up this gambling debt without Shohei being aware? Shohei has already said that he sent the wire, that there's a record of that. There's no denying that. He sent it to cover it. This agency ended up getting investigated. They saw, oh, hey, Shohei sent this wire, and that's how it got traced back, right? Now, the interpreter has said that Shohei had no involvement in any type of bets. There was no betting and that it wasn't on baseball. A lot of people are taking that as like they don't believe it, right? People say he has to have been betting. So the reason he has an interpreter is because he doesn't understand the English language very well. He understands some things, right? So, but he doesn't understand to the scope that, like, say, you watching this video does. He also doesn't understand some of the elements in the culture. So what is more likely? That he, the interpreter, Mizara, is a guy that got himself into trouble gambling and took advantage of his friend that is ignorant in that space and in this culture and the language, or that Ohtani, who has had about as squeaky clean of a record as you could ask for from anybody and keeps it as close and straight edge as possible, doesn't have many friends, doesn't go out, doesn't do anything, decided to just start gambling his life away. Like, again, use common sense, use some logic here. So, again, Shohei has no involvement, or Shohei Ohtani has no involvement in the actual gambling. Bailed out his friend, who then now the money that they believe was stolen is different types of money, right? We don't know what that amount is. It just says that large amounts of money was stolen. That could be 1,000, that could be 10,000, that could be 100,000. It could be money that Shohei maybe has in his account. Could be something in which he said and lied to him. Again, Shohei doesn't understand English. The way that Shohei found out was there were things that were questionable. He spoke to another interpreter who explained the situation and said, hey, this is what is going on. And then Shohei realized, uh-oh, we need to look into this. So he contacted his attorney. His attorney started looking into it, and they discovered that there is money missing. But the $4.5 million is what was sent knowingly by Ohtani to help out his friend. This seems, again, we will see all of this. I mean, the wire and the gambling debt doesn't appear to be allegedly. I mean, that's been admitted. And Mizara has already admitted that, like, yeah, he was gambling on games, but it wasn't baseball. Like, there's no betting on or against Ohtani. Like, there wasn't anything like that. Again, based on the news and information that's out there. They're doing an investigation. Maybe there will be some stuff that comes out that says otherwise. But right now, people are just kind of taking this, the interpreter having a gambling addiction and going, oh, Shohei has to have been involved, when that's just, it's clearly not the case. Again, the information is there. If there was any inclination that Shohei had any involvement, the MLB would have already stepped in. They would have to step in, right? Like, because that would be a huge deal. And you're talking about one of the biggest scandals ever. Like, it would be a total dumpster fire, right? But his interpreter doing so, that's completely different. There have been plenty of people involved already in this situation, from other interpreters to attorneys to statements to everything, that have all basically said Shohei was essentially just taken advantage of, right? Which, again, what makes more sense? That you have this guy that understands the culture, the language, and is the inside. You hear these kinds of stories all the time, and people seem shocked and surprised that, you know, this happened to Shohei. I mean, if anybody, I mean, you've heard stories of this happening to American people and American celebrities and things like that. And yet Shohei ends up getting in this predicament because of somebody else that he trusted and was a friend. And people are like, oh, he has to be involved. Like, no, it just, again, he bailed his friend out. $4.5 million for Shohei is not, that'd be like you helping your friend with, like, you know, $40. Like, oh man, dude, I got a $40 gambling debt, right? Like, if I don't pay that off, they're going to come get me, right? Like, something like that. Guess what? You're going to pay that. You're going to help your boy out so they don't get in trouble. That's basically what happened here. His buddy ended up racking up a gambling debt. He helped him out. He thought this was just kind of like a one-time. He got himself in over his head. Okay, it's a friend, it's a buddy, right? Let me get this over your head. You know, maybe he was working it off, whatever. I don't know what no one knows what the agreement or maybe he just paid it off to help and was just like, hey, you're a good friend of mine. I'll take care of that for you. Don't worry about it, right? I mean, friends buy cars and all kinds of houses and all kinds of stuff for their friends, right? But this guy clearly took advantage of Shohei and put him in a position that just, it's not very good, right? I mean, this is something you believe and trust in this guy that's supposed to be your friend, that's supposed to be kind of your confidant, somebody that is helping you navigate and understand this new world that you're living in. And I understand Shohei has been in the MLB and been in the States for years now, but still, I mean, he's still, like, he has that interpreter. He's still not, there's things that he's still oblivious to. There's still things that he doesn't understand the intricacies of. And so this is one of those things. And basically, he helped a friend who has a gambling addiction, clearly, and because you don't just rack up $4.5 million in gambling debt. And people are like, another big thing that I should touch on too is a lot of people I've seen talk about how, like, oh, like, how did this guy get $4.5 million in gambling debt? Right? Well, one, he's probably making significant money. Like, I'm sure as the interpreter, he's not making $20,000 a year. He's probably making a couple $100,000, maybe even a couple million a year. Plus, if you're a booking and gambling agency and you know that he's Shohei's friend and you know that he's the interpreter, if you're some organization, what are you thinking? Oh, rack that thing up to $100 million. I mean, come on. Like, again, use common sense, use logic. I see so many people just saying stuff just for the sake of saying stuff. The only thing that is really shocking is the interpreter doing this to begin with. Like, talk about having it made and just destroying it. Talk about self-sabotage here. I mean, seriously, you're talking about a guy who his only job is to basically hang out with Ohtani all day, every day, and be basically his sidekick and interpreter. That's it. That's all you have to do. He's not doing some crazy, he's not his trainer or, you know, some doctor or dietitian or something, but he's literally just, his only job is to basically make sure that Shohei understands what is being said. And he's probably making $1 million plus a year doing that. And yet he just thought, it's not enough. Let me just try to sabotage my life and Shohei's. But hopefully this cleared it up better, because again, there's a lot of just information going around that's just clear. Again, it's not true. Like, you can look it up. I'll never understand why people don't take the time to, like, look stuff up before they start talking about it, or, like, come to their own conclusions before they actually, like, read and understand the facts. But that's the world we live in, unfortunately. But anyway, hopefully this cleared it up for some people. Again, maybe it changes. Maybe things end up, as they do an investigation, other things come to light. I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't hanging out with these people. I can't call Shohei and be like, hey, buddy, like, you know, what really happened? Like, we're going to, like, no, we just know the information that's out there, which is that his interpreter got in a gambling debt. Shohei bailed him out one time. It looks like there might be money being stolen, and Shohei had no involvement and didn't know what was going on. Do you have a friend? If you have a friend, do you know what your friend is doing right now? Do you know what your friend is doing every waking second of the day? Your friend could be, you know, building the Death Star for all we know. Like, who knows? You don't know what your friends are doing 24/7. Like, even if you hang out with them, you could hang out with them 20 hours a day, but there's still 4 hours in which you don't know what they're doing and you haven't hung out with them. You might think that they're sleeping, but that doesn't mean that they are. Who knows? So anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts on the situation? What are your thoughts on the matter? Again, hopefully this cleared up some stuff for you and you have a better understanding. But that being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.